Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the TripleJump podcast. It's a video game podcast. My name is Ben.
My name is Peter.
And my name is Ashton.
Good morning.
Good
Hello.
morning.
How are we all doing?
Good.
Very well.
How are you?
Yes, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yes,
Yeah.
good, thank you.
Great.
How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you both?
Good, thank you.
I'm okay, actually. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah. How are you both?
All right.
Yeah, I'm good.
How are you? Hey, how are you?
How are you? Are you doing all right?
Let us know in the
Now
comments.
we just
below.
have to wait for
Yeah.
until we hear. You're going on holiday.
Yes.
It's exciting.
Tomorrow,
Oh,
Where are you off to?
Amsterdam.
Hell
And then
yeah.
when I get back, you're on your holiday.
I know.
Where are you going?
I'm going to the Canary Islands.
Ashton Matthews version 0.9's just been to Amsterdam. Michael Johnson.
0.9.
yeah.
That's a very specific revision
That-
of Matthews.
Baffled me when you said that. I was like,
Not
who
version
are you
1.
talking about?
The alpha version of Ashton Matthews
Yeah.
has just been to Amsterdam,
Yeah.
and now you're going.
Yeah.
So that's nice. Somewhere
We
in
are
the
the same
world,
person.
there's the third Michael Johnson Ashton Matthews
Yeah.
that we've not yet
God,
met.
where
and
are
they're
they?
going next
It's
week.
like the
Yeah.
Dalai Lama. Have they even been born yet?
Yeah, I don't know.
They could be walking the earth.
Theoretically possible.
It's like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. There's like one Slayer in every generation, and you have to wait for that one to go to Amsterdam
Gotta
before a
find
new
'em.
one can be born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Well, exciting. I
Yeah.
hope you have a lovely holiday.
Are you excited for your holiday?
I'm so excited for my holiday.
You're doing an all-inclusive.
I am. I'm going to eat a lot of chicken nuggets, and I'm okay with that. So, yeah, I feel like the closer I get, the more I'm sort of limping across the line. Like, I'm so close now, and then I'm going on holiday. But we're nearly there. It's very exciting.
Lovely.
Thank you for tuning in, everyone. We appreciate all of you. Each and every week on this podcast, we're sponsored by a very real video game adjacent sponsor. Helps us keep the light singular on. Can you see him? Is Dead Island 2 the spider here?
Yeah, I think
today?
there's one up
Oh,
there.
is that one?
There's also one up there, I think.
Oh my God, you're right. They're back.
They're back. I have.
last.
There was a return of all the spiders in my house yesterday. I noticed there was like 4 or 5, so I was like, there must be on the return.
The T-shirt campaign worked.
Yeah.
Yes, we have
they've
found you can
returned.
stop buying the shirts
No,
now.
you can't.
We found him.
You can't stop
Recall all the shirts. Get refunds.
Yeah.
It's fine now. Well, that's good. I'm glad that he's back here.
Me too.
Do you have the ad read, Peter Austin?
I've got an ad read right here.
Okay.
Hey, Ubisoft are worried about people's nutrition. Are your albumin levels low? Do you need to get more protein in you? Do you need other things that come in this specific food product? Well, fortunately, they have got a game for all those people out there who are eggs deficient.
What?
I'll wait.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm not with you.
Eggs deficient.
Yeah, I get the eggs bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to figure out the pun.
What does the eggs sound like?
X?
Yeah.
Defiant.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
He's done it.
so proud
He's
of
done it,
himself.
guys. He's done it.
Are you eggs deficient? Ubisoft will
I
help.
forgot that game.
He's completed. I
Or
think
Ubisoft.
Ubisoft forgot that game as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking.
Comes out this month.
I was-
apparently. Yeah.
I thought it'd been.
Does
I
it?
can't believe it's still going. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still being made.
It's listed on various websites, including Ubisoft's website, as the 21st of May.
That
Oh.
is mad.
Hence
I
it
missed
being
that
the
one.
sponsor this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Except it's not real.
Oh, man, that's a
Dang
shame.
it.
But I'll tell you what is coming out on the 21st of May this
What?
month. Eggs Defiant.
Hellblade Senua's Saga.
Yeah, well, that's
It's also coming out on the
as
same.
as if his issues couldn't get any worse. It's got to go up against that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we're not sponsored by
Eggs deficient.
Eggs Deficient.
I did think X Defiant, but I was like, is that Ubisoft? I was like, completely did not know anything about that game. Like, it's completely passed me by, so I was baffled by that.
They've just cancelled that Tom Clancy game, haven't they? That
Yes, the Division
Whatever it was called.
Heartlands.
Yeah.
I want to say, I've just written up a post about it, but I can't remember. I can't remember what it's called. They announced it. I know they announced it in 2021 with a trailer, and then they said nothing.
Yeah.
Because I had to check. And now it's been cancelled. But it was a free-to-play open world thing. Well, they have also just announced the new Assassin's Creed.
Yeah,
formally.
they
that's
have.
that's the big
Not
one.
watched that yet,
Do we
actually.
think they're gonna make it like a Call of Duty situation and just release a new Assassin's Creed game every year?
I mean, they used to.
Yeah, because well, they did.
That's
Mirage
mental.
wasn't that long ago.
No, Mirage
It was July last year.
They basically had to take a break and like
was fine.
release one only every 2 years for a bit, and then now they're like potentially gonna
I've still not watched a trailer for that. I meant to do it last night,
because
but
they've got
forgot.
Assassin's Creed Hexa or Hexa, I think that's in development, which is not Salem Witch Trials.
Is
apparently,
it not?
according to rumors,
Rubbish.
it's the not German, the Holy Roman Empire witch trials that took place in like the Middle Ages.
It would have been sick to play as a assassin as like one of the witches.
Yeah,
that would
like
have
I
been
mean,
so
probably
cool.
still do,
That
but
would
it's
have
just
been
like the European
so
witch
Jacques.
trials rather than the Salem.
I want to kill loads of boys in stupid hats who are called like witch hunter or witch finder.
Yeah, those.
Witchfinder
Percival.
General.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
All that sort of bollocks. Like that would have
Yeah.
been so cool. That's a real shame if they haven't done that.
Yeah,
It'll still be good.
Yeah,
you'll just
maybe.
be killing
Question
like
mark.
Catholics instead, like sort of inquisitors.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I want to be in like I want every village to be covered in fog and muddy and awful, and I want to.
All of these things might still happen. It's just
true.
not in America.
It's not how I wanted it.
Yeah.
That's a shame. Anyway, this new one looks really cool. Set in Japan. Assassin's Creed Shadows is what it's called. Was it called?
Shadows.
Red.
Red was the code name for a while.
Codename Red.
The trailer's great. Obviously, it's all CG. You play as two assassins that you can switch between at will. One is a shinobi, and the other one is a samurai. Looks very intriguing. And I've just finished watching Shinobi, which everyone's been raving about, and that was excellent. And so that's put me right in the mood for this.
Are either of the characters Japanese?
Yes. One of them
Okay,
is, yeah.
right. Because I saw some people complaining yesterday before the trailer had come out, saying it said like, oh, it like listed all the Assassin's Creed things. It said set in France, play as a Frenchman. Set in America, play as a half Native American. And then it said set in Japan, play as a white man. I think they were just assuming that there will not be a playable Japanese.
One of the characters is black, but
Right.
he is based on a real historical figure that
Okay.
arrived in Japan when trade opened to the country and became a samurai.
Oh, I've heard of that guy.
Which I think
yeah.
is fascinating.
What
So they've
was
based
that?
certain bits on the truth, but there's not much known about him, and then they've filled the rest in with conjecture and story.
What was that game that was essentially set at the exact same time that literally came out like this month or last month? With the flying...
Oh, of
Set in
course.
the same time period.
Yeah.
It was
That's set in
a
Japan,
Sony
and it's
game,
very
wasn't it?
similar, and it's got like grappling hooks and
Rise of the Ronin.
Rise of the Ronin.
Yeah, that game sort of came and went, didn't it? That was not the huge success that I think Sony was expecting it to be,
No.
because that looked very Assassin's Creed
Well,
in
yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of ways. But yeah, this is exciting, and I hope it's good. I hope it's a return to form, because Valhalla, while I maintain that game was far too big and bloated,
Yeah.
people still play it to this day and love it. And so even though they decided to go back and give Mirage a go, I say go back as in simplify things, that really didn't stick the landing with a lot of people either.
No.
So perhaps maybe going back to a huge, bloated, crazy world is maybe the right thing to do. It'll certainly keep the Ubisoft
You can explore the
fleet
entire
of
of
developers
Japan.
busy. So that's
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. Coming out in November.
Yes.
We're not sponsored by Eggs Deficient, though. That's the
not.
the main point. There are a couple of places you can find us online. Patreon is the main one. There are real sponsors. I don't even think I got that far. Patreon.com/Team TripleJump. If you go and support us there, you get access to submitted questions on this podcast. You can watch early episodes of Weirdest and Worst Games Ever. You can watch exclusive episodes of Rules Boss and Main Menu. We've just recorded a Rules Boss, and there'll be a Main Menu going out in a couple of weeks' time, I think, at this point, which is awful. So we hope you look forward to that. You can also find our website, triplej.map. You've put them back in this time.
Well, yeah, that's...
Thank you.
Yeah, because you asked me to, so I did.
I got scared last time. I didn't know what
Yeah,
happened.
you panicked.
You can find everything on our website, triplejU.mp. TripleJumpShop.com is where you can buy amazing merch like this and that and that and that and that. Guys wearing the same hoodie again.
Yeah,
Cringe.
Just best friend things, isn't it,
embarrassing.
really? Once again, patreon.com
It's our gang uniform.
/Team TripleJump. What's your gang called?
Best friends.
Awful.
The VFs.
What's out this week? I think it's a relatively quiet one
It is.
outside of regular content, lists, podcasts, streams, that sort of stuff. We had to
Next week, we've
Yes.
got a big video coming out this coming week, which is every
Warhammer.
Warhammer game.
Age
ranking
of
with-
Sigmar.
Yeah, the fantasy Warhammer rather than, because we've done 40k, so we're ranking all the fantasy ones now.
Yeah.
Also next week on streams, we're going to be raising money
Yes.
for Palestine. So if you want to help out and donate some money, come along to the streams and we'll be raising some money. So
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, shall we begin with Question Un.
Seems like the best place to start.
It does,
doesn't it?
This is from Dan Clapper, who says, "Hey Bap, Sony has announced Herman Holst and Hideaki Nishino will be taking Jim Ryan's former position as head of PlayStation. Do you think that splitting the job will lead to better management? What direction do you want PlayStation to go under their leadership?" Thank you, Dan. I've got a bit of a write-up here from Peter Austin from TripleJump.
Oh,
my God.
Which was, just essentially ripped from several other articles and reworded a little bit. We've where is it? I'm trying to get to the bit where here we go. Holst, founder of Guerrilla Games, currently heads up PlayStation Studios and will take charge of the Studio Business Unit to oversee the company's first-party games as well as their TV shows and movies under PlayStation Productions, are they called? I think the name of the TV shows and movies.
Oh, I'm not sure.
I think they're called PlayStation Productions. Nishino, who's worked under Sony for nearly 2 decades, is currently Senior Vice President of Platform Experiences and will lead the Platform Business Group concerned with PSN, hardware, and third-party projects. The appointment of the 2 executives will bring an end to the temporary measure, in which SIE chairman Hiroki Totoki, great name, stepped in as acting CEO immediately following Ryan's departure. And the 2 new CEOs will report directly to Totoki, who said, "These 2 leaders will have clear responsibilities and will manage strategic direction to ensure the focus remains on deepening engagement with existing PlayStation users and expanding experiences to new audiences." And other squoogles too.
I love expanding audiences. One of my favorites.
So, 2 new executives with kind of their own little departments to look at, which I think is a good idea because if you've got someone who is perhaps more business minded and or kind of more interested in hardware and PlayStation Network and third party stuff, they might not be necessarily the best person to say, here's what we need to be doing for our first party projects. Here are games that we need to be making. And the same might be the other way around. I have no idea what Holst's kind of business acumen is like outside of developing interesting first party PlayStation games. Maybe he's not so into the idea of handling PSN and, like hardware development and stuff. So I think you've got a couple of people there who seemingly have the best background for their respective departments. And it seems like a good way to kind of split things up, I reckon.
Yeah, it just makes it easier to focus on one specific player journey. I think Herman Holst is great. I think he's done some really good things with Guerrilla. So I'm excited to see what he does. Obviously, he's been the head of studios for a little while now, but I'm excited to see what he does with even more power. I hope that we'll see some more first party games coming out. I'm hoping that they will steer it away from the first party what are they called? Live service game narrative that we've been kind of drip fed over the last 12 months. That would be my if I could have that as please may you get rid of this, Herman. That would be grand. And I'd like to see what they do with the console going forward. We've already talked about in various ways how PlayStation have kind of been dropping the ball with their additional devices and things that they've done for the PlayStation. So hopefully, if we're going to have someone whose entire job it is to make the hardware experience better, then hopefully we'll get some devices that actually have games built for them and are also worth buying, which I feel like we've not had from them in a little while.
Yeah, I like the sound of this in principle. Herman Hurst, he's great, and he, as you guys said, he comes from a development background, which is so different from Jim Ryan. Yeah. And my hope is that we could go back to a sort of Sean Layden era PlayStation where they were far more open about what was going on, and they did things like PlayStation Experience, and they had more outreach with the audience that they already have. It takes a very long time to turn a ship of this size around. And of course, being in a position of power doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be able to just wave a magic wand and do all the stuff that we want, because they will have stupid decisions thrust upon them. They may well make some stupid decisions themselves. And with the news that Helldivers 2 is officially Sony's fastest selling game of all time, it may well be that there's an immense amount of pressure to continue down the live service trend or path to try and replicate that, which is not something that we're too keen on. But, you know, if you're thinking like an accountant, then that's the obvious choice. However, with Nishino having such an extensive background working in various departments within PlayStation for so long, and him running infrastructure and, you know, hardware and that stuff, that makes total sense. And Herman, especially coming from a game development background, he knows what developers want and need, and he is far more in tune with what people who actually play games want as well. And I'm hoping that even if he can't make the decisions where it's like, no more live service games, cancel them all, let's do 1 million single-player narrative games, which will make me really happy. Even if he can't do that, at the very least, he will be a vocal, I would have thought, supporter of that kind of stuff. So there will be a voice in very high up in the corporate ladder who supports things that perhaps players are more interested in than executives are interested in, and that can only be a good thing.
Just did a Google. They apparently officially get their positions from the 1st of June. So we've still got a week or so left, and then I wonder how quick they'll start doing crazy things and making huge announcements, or probably won't hear anything from them for a couple of months.
We've rumoured a PlayStation.
We've not had any confirmation or anything yet. We know we've got a Nintendo one and an Xbox one next month, and also obviously Summer Game Fest, but we've not heard anything from PlayStation regarding we're doing this.
Is it 12 months ago now nearly that the last PlayStation experience happened, or whatever it was called?
Yeah. I don't. It's been they did Showcase, it in June. They didn't do it at the same time as everyone else. They did it in July last year. They pushed theirs later, I think, or it was earlier. It wasn't at the same time as everyone else's.
It wasn't, was it?
It happened when I was on holiday last year, which was May, which was around this time.
So they had it earlier.
Right. So it's been 12 whole months. They haven't done another one since.
They've done the odd little one that they do, but they have also said that they're not planning to release any first-party games until next year. So if we do see one, it'll all be games that are coming out at least 6 months from now. And even then, how many of those will actually be releasing next year will be something else. We're hoping maybe we'll get some DLC for Spider-Man, but that's about as much as I think we can hope for this side of Christmas.
If we don't get what is it called? Is it called a showcase? The State of Play is the smaller one.
Yeah, the State of Play is the smaller one.
And a Showcase is a big one.
Showcase. Well, whatever the bigger one is, if we do get one in the next couple of months, I imagine I would like to see Mr. Hurst there saying hello and introducing himself. But I would imagine the tone would, largely be the same as before. But if we get a subsequent one either later in the year, more regularly, or even a year from now, I would hope that if these two are going to make any kind of meaningful change, then that would be reflected in that. It's probably too soon to expect anything majorly different in whenever the next showcase comes around. But
where's bloody Little Devil Inside?
I don't know.
One of theirs, isn't it? I think
It was at the PS5 announcement, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then it was available as a Kickstarter before that.
Because I keep seeing it on when I'm googling what's coming out this year, and when we're doing our sponsors, I sometimes think I have to Google what's coming out this month, and at the bottom of those articles there's always, and here's a list of games that are coming out at some point but we don't know when, and it's always in there. And is it actually ever going to happen?
Whenever I'm doing an end of the month one, I'm looking at the spreadsheet, and then there's loads of ones that's just TBC summer 2024 ? So
no idea. It's baffling, isn't it? I hope we do get to play it, because the 2 times that we've seen it as part of PlayStation showcases, it's looked like a completely different game.
Yeah.
Each time it's looked completely different.
Looks really interesting though.
It does.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I have no idea. I assume that they've got the funding to keep working on it, which, all the power to them. But hopefully we can play it at some point. Hopefully it's good. Should we move on to what's this?
Oh yeah, I thought we could do this, try it out, and then if we don't like it, we've got a bit of a hiatus before we're all back, so we can discuss it when we're back. It's called What We Playin.
Okay. All right. It's what we play in time. Time to talk about the games what we have been playing. Peter Austin, what have you been playing?
Well, this probably explains why I just specifically picked out Little Devil Inside from, all the various games I could have said, when are Sony going to show us this? Because I, this week, have been playing Far Lone Sales. Have you guys played either of the Far games?
No.
But I saw the trailer for it and it looked really good.
Yeah, so this is the first of the two. The second one is available on PS5, and I've had it in my library for ages. And I actually played like 15 minutes of the second one when I first got it, and then there was a power cut, and then I sort of didn't play it for a few days, and then I kind of played something else new, and then I never went back to it. And I've always said I must go back to it. But then I thought, well, why don't I play the first one first? That's only available on PS4, so I ended up actually just getting it on PC instead. When I say only available on PS4, I mean they've not done a PS5 version as such. But I played it on PC instead. I've been having a lovely time. It's a very sort of artistic. I don't want to say minimal. It's minimal in terms of there's no like real like dialogue or anything like that. It's just a side-scrolling puzzle where you've got this big ship thing. It starts out on the land, but it like eventually kind of makes its way into some water, and you're kind of like fixing it and changing it as you go, and like raising the sails and lowering it, and you invariably like crashing into stuff, and then you have to kind of like do another puzzle to get it loose or to raise a gate or anything like that. But it's just very atmospheric, the music and the landscapes and the art style. So I've really been enjoying that, and I'm looking forward to finishing it and then playing the second one on PS5. But it's properly got me into like that whole sort of genre or aesthetic, in that I've now, the past 2 days, I've played all the way through Inside again, as in by what are they called?
The Limbo guys.
Yeah, the Limbo
Play
guys.
Dead?
That's it might be Play Dead.
I
I don't know. The Limbo guys is the one. So I have played that before, but I was so enjoying this other game that is kind of aesthetically quite similar. I was like,
Play Dead.
Oh, it's Play Dead. Okay. I was like, I've not played Inside for ages. I played it about 2 years ago on the recommendation of Philip.
I was going to say, was that the one that Philip?
Because I had played Limbo before, and Little Nightmares, I guess, is kind of similar as well, and I enjoyed all those. And he said, you really need to play Inside, and I did, and I had a great time. But it was just the once, and I couldn't even remember anything that happened apart from the kind of weird thing that happens at the end of the game. But I couldn't remember anything up to that point, so I was like, I'm going to play that. So I've completed that again for a second time, had a really good time. Going back to Far Lone Sales, the name of which I keep forgetting, for the rest of the week, and then hopefully I'm going to play the one's called Far something Tides, Changing Tides or something.
Changing Tides sounds
Faraway Tree.
Yeah, the Faraway Tree. Changing Tides.
Enid Blyton's
the Faraway
Enid
Tree.
Blyton's Faraway Tree. Yeah. So that's what I'm playing. Sort of weird, eerie, atmospheric games at the moment, and I'm having a lovely time.
Nice.
I played some things this week. I played Dave the Diver some more. That game's still great. But the one thing I played the most of is Fabledom. Now, we got sent a code for this pre-releasing this week. So I've given it a go like a little bit longer than I think it's been out. So I promise I've played more than you might think. And I've been having a wonderful time with that. It's a city builder sim. However, it's set in like a fantasy fairy tale land. So there's like sometimes a big cyclops will come to your village, and you can either say, hey, I'll give you 5 of my nobility, which is one of the currencies that you kind of gather by doing various quests and kind of things that happen. And the cyclops will be like, oh, that's great, I'll hang around and make everyone around here happy. Or you can send your hero to fight him, and then he dies, but the hero gets like a bonus. But yeah, I've been really enjoying it. You kind of have all of the basics of a city builder. You're building houses, and then you need to give people jobs. And in order to get more resources, you have to have a certain amount of like loggers and people who are mining stone and stuff. And I have been really, really enjoying it. And I will be playing some more when I get back from holiday. Might play it on stream next week, potentially. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, that's a really, really pretty good little game. I think it's out on PlayStation as well. So I've been playing it on PC, but having a wonderful time.
Excellent. I've played a handful of things. I installed that Game Boy emulator that finally made it onto iOS a while back. And occasionally, I keep forgetting to talk about it, I just downloaded a ROM. I mean, legally uploaded
Obtained.
my own copy of
You
Pokemon
made
Yellow.
an image of your...
And then I
whatever they
mounted
call
it.
Mounted
Yeah.
it,
And then I burned it and defragmented it as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Played a bit of Pokemon Yellow, just occasionally dipping in. You can change your settings so it plays on like 4 times fast forward. So I'm just like absolutely flying through. And it's just occasionally like when I'm bored or I was waiting to get my hair cut and I didn't know what else to do. So I just booted it up and played a little bit of that. Nothing to report on that front. I played a little bit more of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Very excitingly, I played a Wells Interactive game that all of us had forgotten existed.
Including Wells Interactive.
Including Wells Interactive. This game was announced around the same time as Mia and the Dragon Princess and a couple of others as well. And I remember now, looking back, I remember seeing screenshots for it and thinking, oh, cool, that looks great. And then I can't remember how I found this. I think it was just because I was Googling like, oh, what are Wells Interactive's FMV games like? What is the next one? They haven't announced any more yet, which is... I mean, who are we to get 3 amazing Wells Interactive games in the space of 12 months? Who
You've got a
two.
quote
deserve
from them,
that?
2.5.
haven't you? When you spoke to them, you said, "You're not giving up on FMV games, though, are you?" And they said,
absolutely
"Of course
not."
Yeah.
That's good news. But I'm jonesing for a new one, right? So I was looking at their list of games. And on there, I saw, what's it called? Death Trap Dungeon, The Golden Room, which is based on an Ian Livingstone Choose Your Own Adventure novel. And I was like, oh, yeah. What happened to that? And then you go on Steam and it says due for release in 2021. You go on their website, it's not there. You go on Wikipedia and it says that it's coming 2022. A demo released in 2021, I think, or a while back, but only on Xbox and Steam. And I was like, what's happening with this? Because if there's a demo, then it's highly unlikely that they didn't just shoot the whole thing. I
Yeah,
doubt that they would have just shot 2 scenes for a demo. Surely they would have just filmed the whole thing. So it's probably on a hard drive somewhere filmed. But because of the nature of the kind of like fantasy thing that it is, there's a lot of CG and green screen work in this, which is probably a lot more intensive. Anyway, I was thrilled to discover that the demo is still live on the Xbox store. So I downloaded it and I gave it a go. And it is spectacular. It's everything that we want out of a Wells Interactive game. Slightly wonky CG.
Love.
The first choice you make is a binary yes or no, and if you pick the wrong one, again, it dumps you like halfway through whatever's going on.
Yeah.
You have no context. It doesn't tell you who you are or why you're here. If you pick the wrong answer, you get like disintegrated and you lose.
Yeah.
Which I know is sort of how
At the beginning.
yeah.
Okay.
Which is, I know sort of how Choose Your Own Adventure games work.
Yeah.
But it was sort of like, oh, for God's sake. And then you restart and you have to watch the entire opening scene again until you get to that choice and then pick the other option.
Is this it? All
Yeah.
of that.
That's it.
I remember us watching the trailers for that, like when we first like started. I think it was relatively early on when I started, and we were like, "Oh my God, look at this!"
Look at this.
And then we didn't hear anything about it for years. I don't think this game's coming out. And you
No.
were like, "Can you message Wells Interactive and ask them?" And I was like, "I don't want to ask them about a game that they're like actively
You've got your mates on Twitter.
No, the TripleJump account is mates on Twitter.
Yeah, but you message them from.
I was too shy. I didn't want to be like, "Hey, Chris,
Hey, what about this game that
What's
you
going on with
dropped
this?
have
the
you
ball
have
on?
you ever released
with this
this
game, you bonesed up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think.
Here's a weird thing. This might just be Google Images freaking out, but if you Google Death Trap Dungeon: The Golden Room on Google Images, one of the answers is a YouTube thumbnail, but it's the PS1 game Death Trap Dungeon.
Weird.
It might just be because it's in the sidebar of
Maybe.
a video.
I
of
think
it,
they've
but-
changed the name for it, you know.
You reckon?
I don't think it was always called Death Trap Dungeon, because I was looking at it and I was like, I swear this wasn't called Death Trap Dungeon when we first saw it. Like, I think it had a different. I think it was called The Golden Room, but I don't think it had Death Trap Dungeon.
Oh, and
Right.
they just bolted that on
So
the front.
Not
I
sure.
was confused when you sent it, because I was like, what is this?
I mean, given that
But it was
Death Trap
good.
Dungeon
Sorry.
is a as you say, an Ian Livingstone choose your own adventure game book. Maybe that is the issue. Maybe they had a license for it, and if they'd released it in time, like 2021 or something, it would have been fine. But perhaps it's expired, and now they.
That is my assumption as well. That there was maybe some kind of licensing thing. Maybe Mr. Livingston saw the demo and thought, no. But I would hope not, because there's a lot of budget that goes into putting something like that together. So again, I would assume that it was pretty far along, that they filmed it all at least. And I am desperate to know what's going on with this, because I think we could have an excellent time with it.
But
There's
also,
like a ninja that's holding a gem, and your character bumps into another person who's trying to navigate the dungeon, and they say, let's work together. And then they trust each other immediately.
Yep.
And the guy that you meet up with just like fully turns his back on you, where you could easily attack him, but you don't get the option. He picks up a gem and you're like, no, don't. And then the ninja comes back to life and does like mad flips and stabs him and stuff. It's ridiculous.
Well, what was I going to say then? What you think that like if it is a licensing problem, that they could just, I mean, as you suspect,
Take
Ashton,
the name out.
it maybe wasn't Death Trap Dungeon to begin with. So whether it was or wasn't, surely they could just say, all right, we're going to release our dungeon game. It's not Death Trap Dungeon. It's just called the Golden Room. I can't imagine it's, that. It's probably fairly generic. Like it's probably fairly just you are in a fantasy dungeon. So yeah,
I mean, the last game was called Mia and the Dragon Princess, so I feel like they could definitely come up with a decent
something.
name.
Yeah,
I might send them a message then. Just say, hey, I played this demo and it was really good. Like, when can we expect the full thing? I'm not going to go in there saying, so was it cancelled? But I'm going to ask them like, when can I play that? When can I have it now?
Could you send me just like the beta build that you got?
Just stick a USB drive in the post and we'll do it ourselves. We just want to watch it. We just want to experience it.
Send the footage to Alex Winters and
he'll put it together.
All the blue screen, we'll make it work. Off the back of that though, I was riding a Wells Interactive high and I needed my fix. So I played through Nightbook and 10 Dates again, both of which are excellent. And finally, the main thing I've been playing is Doom 1993, Doom 1, because I was looking for something to play and I just downloaded a few things, as I said last week. Doom was one of them, and I've been playing a bit of that. I can fully, as with so many games from the period, you can absolutely appreciate how groundbreaking it was. I can't say I'm particularly enthused about running around what is essentially mazes trying to find key cards to go through doors. That is not fun for me at all. I intend to finish it. I'm about halfway through it. But I think it would have been far more exciting in 1993.
Yeah.
I'm happy that I can still experience it today though. So, and it's a decent port as well. It does the weird thing that Dark Forces does as well, where by default it enables motion controls on the PS5 controller. So if you turn it, like your character turns, and I was like, I'm going to turn that off. That's awful. I don't want to do that. But that's all I've been playing.
Well, now it's time for question 2. Hi, Bap. This comes from Chris McVeigh. Sorry, it comes from Chris McVeigh. Hi, Bap. Square Enix has announced a new medium-term business plan after once again being disappointed with their game's profitability. The headline announcement is they will start to aggressively pursue a multi-platform strategy that includes Nintendo platforms, PlayStation, Xbox, and PCs. How much do you think this adjusted strategy will improve things? I'm thinking particularly about whether future products such as Final Fantasy VII Remake and Kingdom Hearts 4 will now be expected to run on Nintendo platforms. Whether doing so will force some compromises to be made, and whether that compromise is worth it if the alternative is games like this not being made at all. Edit to add, the related layoffs hadn't been announced when I asked this, but I suppose that's how they plan on saving some money. Should have guessed.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. I would like to think that this is a kind of broad, generic statement that, they want to include Nintendo platforms, PlayStation, Xbox, and PCs in their strategy going forward. But that doesn't necessarily mean that something like Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 will have to run on the Switch or the Switch 2. I mean, it might be something that they've decided has to happen in terms of, trying to maximize profitability. But I can't imagine that is the plan. Like to make a game that would run on the Switch, as a third part to something following those two games that I have to imagine would not run on a Switch, or not very well anyway. You're either going to have to scale it back massively, or have a sort of a kind of a separate Switch version that is scaled back, but still do a full scale one on PlayStation and Xbox, or the third option, not have it playable on Switch. Perhaps we'll be surprised with the next kind of the Switch successor, and perhaps it's going to be a bit more powerful than everyone suspects it's going to be. I don't think it's necessarily going to be powerful enough that will kind of solve this problem. But something like Kingdom Hearts, whether it's Kingdom Hearts 4 or perhaps a kind of a spin-off, I can see that being kind of at home on the Switch. It seems like a fairly Switch-friendly game. I mean, Sora has been in Smash Bros, so he's kind of familiar to the Nintendo family. So I suspect what they're really going to be doing is perhaps focusing on making certain things that are Switch-friendly and putting those out on Nintendo consoles, but not necessarily taking big projects that already exist for PlayStation and Xbox and trying to force them onto the Switch, although other people have done it with varying degrees of success.
Mostly not.
Yes.
I like this.
Do you?
I am a big fan of cross-platform games. I'm a big fan of the removal of exclusivity to platforms. I think it is a good thing for everyone. I've said this before, and I'm sure I will be saying it again. I think that the main issue with Final Fantasy VII, and the reason it didn't sell very well, is because it was only available on one platform, which doesn't have it has loads of players, but it doesn't have all of the players. Whereas if you wanted your games available for a wider audience, why wouldn't you sell to everyone? I don't know how well things will run on the Switch. I think we'll have to see how the Switch 2 can handle things. I also don't necessarily know if they would scale back everyone's games to make it work on Nintendo platforms, or if they would just have an alternative version of the game which runs worse and looks worse.
Like Soul Calibur. Or
was
it Soul Calibur?
Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Which looked amazing. So good. I would really like to see more companies launching games on multiple platforms. I think it benefits the gamers. I think it benefits the company. I think we've seen a lot of people having issues with profits, Microsoft being the main one here. And if their games were being sold elsewhere, I don't see why they wouldn't make more money. And I think that is kind of the crux of it all, is that, of course, you want people to buy your platform, but with this far into the generation where people have got the platform that they have got, and most people can't really afford to have a second console, so why wouldn't you, as a developer or publisher, decide to just publish for everyone so that you can maximize the profit that you make? I think Sony won't like to hear this because they've had first dibs on most Square Enix games for the last few years, and so maybe they'll get a bit upset about it, but I'm all for it. I think it's great. I'd like to see more of this from other companies, not the layoffs. I'd like to see less of that, please.
Yeah.
But I also think it's really funny that they're so upset about foam stars. Like they
can't believe it.
They can't believe it. They cannot fathom why that game
did you listen to
didn't
the
work.
soundtrack?
Yeah,
guys,
it's
have you
bad.
listened to the soundtrack?
It's not Splatoon. It's foam. It's
Listen,
different.
listen. It's not Splatoon.
Listen, it's foam.
I wonder how Sony would feel, though, if Part 3 of Final Fantasy VII Remake made it onto Xbox, for example. Like, I can see them perhaps conceding a bit more with, like, okay, future Final Fantasy projects, you want to make them available on everything, whatever. But, like, Parts 1 and 2 of the remake have been exclusive to PlayStation. So for that to suddenly arrive on Xbox, for example, that would be
but
an
it's clearly not
interesting
working.
case. No, I agree. Yeah.
It's clearly not working. And like,
Not by
I
their
don't
standards,
mind a timed exclusive. I don't love it. Does annoy me a bit, but I don't mind that. But a constant console exclusive just harbors everyone apart from the console manufacturer that has the exclusivity.
Because wasn't Tomb Raider a timed exclusive? One of the,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
the
it
first
was.
one was on everything, and then 2 and maybe 3 were
Of the
timed
new
so there's
trilogy.
precedent there.
for Xbox.
Because they're all now on Game Pass.
Yes.
And that really hamstrung them as well, because
Yeah.
the Xbox One did not have the install base that the PlayStation did. And I doubt that moved the needle. I think it probably really hurt Tomb Raider, which is a real shame. And this could well be hurting Final Fantasy, although we've discussed that before, and there are aspects. Obviously, it being on one platform is a huge thing, but it's also a middle of a franchise.
Yeah.
You're not going to get new players in at that point. It just doesn't work like that. This could well be the point that we see a narrowing of Square Enix's focus, like we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, where it is just Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Kingdom Hearts, Foam Stars. From here on out, we're going to get Foam Stars every year. Have you listened to the soundtrack?
They're going to shut down Foam Stars within the year.
No, you're
They
wrong.
won't be supporting the services.
It's going to underpin everything on Game Pass.
Yeah.
It's going to hold Xbox up from beneath like Atlas.
It's like you haven't heard the soundtrack, Ashton.
I have heard the soundtrack.
Well, then you wouldn't be saying that if you say it's going to shut down within a year.
But if I could go and listen to the soundtrack whenever I want, it's on Spotify.
No. You've got to be up every day. Get your daily song.
I work out to the Foam Stars soundtrack.
Who doesn't? It's the soundtrack to my life. I think the problem is that the more regular that these handful of franchises come out, it's going to make them feel less special. Like Final Fantasy, it feels like we get a spin-off every 2 months or a mobile game or whatever. The big tentpole releases are usually years apart. And in the past, within 6 months, maybe slightly longer, we've had Final Fantasy 16 and Rebirth, which are 2 massive Final Fantasy series. And perhaps there could be an argument made for that kind of tarnishing the series a little bit, in that you're just getting too much within a short space of time, especially as they are such massive games. Obviously, more platforms means more sales. We don't know
platforms, mo problems.
Well, yes,
you will.
exactly. We don't know what kind of deal they had worked out with Sony. The fact that Remake Part 1 is still not on Xbox is kind of baffling, considering it came to PC, like a year and a half after, thereabouts. And I imagine the same will be true for Rebirth. However, as you guys said, this deal is not working for Square Enix. It almost certainly seemingly worked with Part 1 because there was such massive fanfare about Final Fantasy VII coming back, again, as we've spoken about on previous podcasts, that momentum alone carried it to worldwide success, even though it was just on PlayStation 4 at the time and then came to PC later. That has not been the case with Rebirth for whatever reason. And so they either need to examine the deal that they've got with Sony, if there is not already one in place for Part 3, or kindly back out of that, and we could see a situation where Xbox gets Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 all in one go. And that would be a huge get for Xbox players, obviously, but also it would see, wherever those players were that wanted to play that haven't played it yet, that you're going to get the sales from them as well. We don't know how much more powerful the new Switch is going to be, as you said, but there's a good chance that it might still not be as powerful as a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X. And even though we will be assured that compromises have not been made, we have seen that compromises are clearly made with games that go across PS4 and PS5 and games that go across Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S. Even if they make assurances that, hey, we're making a Switch 2 version as well, but that's not going to impact your experience on PlayStation 5. It will. It definitely will. And even though one might run better or look better, they're still going to have made various changes so that there is some so it sort of runs across all of them. The alternative, as you said, Peter, is that they design an entirely separate version for the weaker hardware, but that's not saving any money.
It's cloud gaming.
You're going to have an entire team making
gaming,
that. Doesn't make any sense. Cloud gaming is also an option. So it could all just be, I believe wholeheartedly that they are going to redouble their efforts on multi-platform approaches, but I don't know that we're really going to see much change. Hopefully, as you said, Ashton, it means that some of the games that have been timed exclusives or whatever the deal is that's worked out there will see a release elsewhere. They're going to just get a lot of sales from that alone. So. But the layoffs are terrible. That's really sad. And I don't know how widespread those have been, actually. We've just had some things from Twitter this week, haven't we?
Yeah, I don't think it's been particularly massive. It's not been a Microsoft style mass cull. I think it's just been...
Is it North America and Europe, I think, mainly, like support staff and IT and stuff like that. So terrible.
Still terrible,
Hope everybody manages to land on their feet. But yeah, we could well see Final Fantasy VII parts finally coming to other platforms. What form that takes remains to be seen.
And if they did, that would probably hit the headlines, wouldn't it?
Yes, and it would be a bit strange.
In fact, it might be weird news.
It's weird news time for weird news. If you'd like to submit some weird video game news to us, you can do so under the relevant social media post that goes out on a Tuesday. However, if you'd like to guarantee a shout out at this point in the podcast, you need to go to patreon.com/Team TripleJump, support us at the appropriate tier and become a podcast producer just like
Chip Thompson's thumbs.
GY Goliath,
Nexus Polaris,
Nicole Hansen,
Andy Scott,
Blake Thomas,
Timothy Bentley,
Kyle Gary,
Shaman Nomo,
Great Giggity,
Melody Elbonet,
Katie Garrett,
Hugh Jas,
Gabrielle Philippink. Was that you? I waited and no one said anything.
I was about to.
it was Ashton,
Sorry.
I'm lost now.
Gabrielle Philippink,
Gabrielle Philippink.
Potato Shack 99.
Eric Thew,
And Big Money Bobby Vegas.
You got some weird news there, Peter?
I've got some weird news. It's around a slightly sensitive subject. This is submitted to us by from Bezus Castile. This pertains to the ongoing conflict taking place in Palestine, Gaza, but it is weird video game news, so we're going to cover it, and we're raising money next week anyway. So hey, let's all try and this is from I thought there was a typo. It's written by Luke Daman. Luke Daman.
Luke
Wow.
Daman. Who's the man?
Luke Deman.
Luke is the man.
So let's all try and hear what Luke Daman has got to say.
Where's it from?
Oh, from the Gamer Ant.
Oh, the Gamer Ant.
Yes.
Fun.
Fans. Oh, headline. News channel accidentally uses Battlefield 4 image.
Good.
You've got
This
the
hasn't happened
context.
for a while, has it?
Yeah. Fans of DICE's Battlefield 4 were quick to spot a mistake made by a news station where a photo from the game was being used in a story about the ongoing conflict between Israel and Palestine. A photo of the incident is now making the rounds online in the Battlefield 4 community, with several fans absolutely shocked by the error. Battlefield 4 marked uncharted Okay, we're talking about Battlefield 4 now. Of course we are. However, it re-entered online discussions for very different reasons recently, with a news station mistakenly using an image ripped right from the game. Reddit user G_Battison caught the mistake and shared a photo of the news broadcast with the Battlefield 4 community. In the photo, a female news anchor can be seen presenting a story about the continued struggle between Palestine and Israel, with a photo that was presumably meant to show an Israeli soldier placed behind her. However, this photo is quickly confirmed to be taken directly from Battlefield 4's online component, causing all kinds of reactions from within the game's community. There she is.
It looks like a video game even from a blurry picture.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It looks very much
It looks like a video game promo image.
Yeah.
It's not even like a video, like a picture of like a car that's been blown up. That's just straight up like a promo image. It's like they've just like
he's looking right down the lens.
It's a video
they've
game
just
man.
content aware filled the title of the game out at the corner.
What was intended to be a photo of an Israeli soldier actually turned out to be artwork of a Russian medic taken straight from Battlefield 4. Classes are a crucial and recognizable part of Battlefield, with this photo of a medic somehow making it past teams of editors and visual designers. While unconfirmed, many users claim this news story was presented by Record TV, a news broadcast station located in Brazil. So that is probably all we need to know. As you say, Ben, it's been a while since this has happened, but it does happen occasionally.
It does.
Yeah.
The next thing we'll be hearing about is that they've leaked more tank controls in that tank
Yeah.
edit. That hasn't happened in a
War
while,
Thunder.
but it always happens, doesn't it? I have some news. It was submitted by Lachlan Creeley, and it comes from Ali Jones of Games Radar Plus.
Oh.
Don't know why there's a plus there. Why is there a plus?
Special.
Cool. A Fallout New Vegas fan is... It's a good picture.
The photo is really good.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
It's
on the
really good.
Twitter post.
A Fallout New Vegas fan is trying to raise $500,000 to put the RPG's enigmatic anti-hero on the Vegas Sphere. Today I learned how expensive the Las Vegas Sphere is.
It's still making massive losses, apparently.
Yeah.
It's like
What a shock.
hemorrhaging money.
It's because they just locked Bono in it, and he's got to perform every night, and no one wants to come and see Bono.
Yeah.
There it is.
No one wants to come and see Bono. A GoFundMe campaign started earlier this week. It's attempting to raise $487,710 to display Mr. House on the Las Vegas Sphere for one day, complete with a pretty nifty Photoshop of the character's CRT-lined, mustachioed face spread across the orb. The campaign description argues that it's only right, and the sole proprietor of the Las Vegas Strip should make his presence known in the crown jewel of the Mojave. New Vegas fans will likely be intimately familiar with Mr. House. He is, after all, much of the reason why the city even continues to exist, and as such plays a substantial role in the latter parts of the game. Fallout TV show fans might also be familiar with the character. I'm not going to read that because that's a spoiler. For now, the campaign to get Mr. House on the Las Vegas Sphere doesn't seem likely to get very far. After 2 days, it's only gained a fraction of the money it would need to renting out the Sphere's billboard feature costs $450,000 a day, and we're currently sitting at just $245.
Oh no.
man.
Still, I admire the person who threw a full $100 towards the fundraiser, safe in the knowledge that in the long term, Mr. House will always win.
What's it on now? Is there a hyperlink to the listing?
Yes, there is.
How they do it? They've got to have. What if they have less money than before?
They have 3,340.
Oh, it's gaining traction.
Nice. Doing well then.
Why?
Nearly there.
If something doesn't meet the goal, it's not like a Kickstarter. Like, you just give the money and this just goes into this guy's pocket. Like,
What is it? Is it?
it's a GoFundMe.
Oh right, yeah. So this.
Isn't
if
like-
It doesn't reach the goal,
If it doesn't reach the goal, people don't get their money back.
Oh really? This guy's just got
Hey,
$3,000.
I might just do this. Just
Ah.
find a community.
Yeah.
Say,
Yeah.
I'm going to raise $500,000 to put.
to eradicate wasps. Oh well.
Yeah,
I
Here's
don't have to do it now.
$5.
So
The guy
I'm going to put the Sniper 2 on the Sphere.
The guy who's running it has made a Twitter, which is at Rob Sphere House, and he's got 9 followers, and he's not posted a single thing.
well, he's about to walk away
It's
with
a scam.
$3,000, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah,
When does it run out?
The biggest hustle
it
Vegas
doesn't
has
run
ever
out.
seen.
It's a GoFundMe; it just goes forever. There's no like.
Oh really?
Goal.
So this guy just has the money.
Yeah.
That's-
He's got an Instagram account with 114 followers.
He could go and put it all on red, and then
Yeah.
then he'll have $6,000.
Yeah.
That is mental
Or
though.
not.
I didn't realize it worked that way. I thought you had to reach the goal.
No, not for GoFundMe.
Mental.
I'm
These
pretty
people
sure-
are insane then.
Because
to give
people
him
who
money.
like have medical expenses, people can just help out. They don't have to necessarily hit the goal before they take the money.
Okay, that makes sense. I don't know why anyone would. Maybe these people didn't realize that either, and they're expecting to get their
Should
money
have done it
back.
as a
Yeah.
Kickstarter or something.
You should. This may be by design.
Yeah, yeah.
He just wants his money. All right.
Did you
Well,
see what I did there?
best luck
It's a
then.
scam.
It is a scam. Yeah. My weird news comes from Aaron Pristelsky at Aaron Pristelsky on Twitter. This is actually a follow-up to an article that I spoke about recently in Weird News.
Mm-hmm.
It's Games Radar Plus.
Oh.
And
Plus
it's
what?
well, it's got the Union flag up
Plus
there.
England.
Ha 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 ha. After 13,151 races in Mario Kart 7. No, I've read that with the wrong inflection. After 13,151 races in Mario Kart 7 tragically crashed one 3DS, the dying Nintendo
Whoa.
Network servers are down to the final 4 players.
New news has broken. Longest subordinate clause in a headline discovered.
You can't blame me for reading that with the wrong inflection. We're losing
I
more
didn't know
brave
where it was going
Nintendo
at
players
any point.
every
Yeah.
day, says Dustin Bailey.
Ah.
The fight to stay online on 3DS and Wii U continues well over a month after the servers were supposed to shut down, but we're now down to the final 4, all because one player's 3DS just crashed. Just ahead of the planned Nintendo Network shutdown on April the 8th, 2 players called FishGuy6564 and Mario is Cool 246
He is.
set up a pair of bots in Mario Kart 7 to continually race against each other online. Those bots have been racing over and over again since that day. With the loss of the last Pokemon XY player on May the 8th, oh no, That left Fishguy6564 and Mario is Cool 246 as the only known 3DS players left online. But yesterday, May the 13th, tragedy struck as Mario is Cool 246's 3DS froze, apparently on the Luigi's Mansion track. A total of 13,151 races were won, with 6,400. Sorry, what did I say?
Run. You said
run. With 6,495 won by Mario is Cool 246. No, won by Fishguy. Oh my God, Fishguy656. It's a lot of numbers here, bot. And 6,656 won by Mario is Cool 246s, according to the latter player's own estimate. Fishguy6564 remains online, though now simply connected to an empty lobby. According to Gaffs Not Laughs on Twitter, that leaves us with just 4 players on the Nintendo network, counting the 3 other souls who are sitting on Lonely Mario Maker, Splatoon, and Xenoblade Chronicles X connections. They've been dropping like flies in recent weeks, though. As of May the 5th, 8 final players remained, but that number's now already been halved, if you can do the maths there. Godspeed to those who remain.
Well done.
So, yes, there are still 4 players on 3DS and Wii U, but all of them are in lobbies on their own. They don't have anyone to play with.
It makes me sad that, like, the bot, and I know it's not a real person, but it makes me think of Wreck-It Ralph. And it's like, oh my God, that bot has just been riding around with his friend for 13,000 races, and now his friend's dead, and he'll never see him again.
Just disappeared. Last seen online.
It's like sitting in an empty aircraft hangar, just on your own in the middle of the room, with the lights off.
Not doing races, just sat there.
I remember when the official servers were shut down for PlayStation 3 Masterpiece Warhawk. And before people worked out how to host their own servers, which they still do, and there's still a community playing to this day, but it's usually only 1 or 2 servers, I would start it up just to hear the main menu music and just sit there and look at it like, man, I used to play this all the time. And then I'd close it again. That was it.
Does that make you even sadder?
Does that make you sad, Ashton? Or does that make me sad? Bit of both?
I was sad for a robot.
All right, leave me alone. It's time, everyone, for the big discussion.
Okay.
Oh.
It's big discussion time for the big video game discussion. This week, the big video game discussion comes courtesy of Jens Herman, or how would you say it, Ashton?
Jens Herman.
Okay, Jens.
It was Jensen, and I was like, and Peter read it as Jensen, and I just thought Jensen.
Like
Jensen Button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Jensen Ackles.
Yeah, that's the one I was
Jensen button.
The Jensen button. Greetings, BAP. EA has done it again.
What have they done again?
They want to put ads into their already full-priced video games to make more of that sweet cash.
Woo!
Do you think there is a more or less healthy way to do that, or should they all just flip off, stay safe, and plops free?
Thank you,
They
Jens.
should all just flip off.
They should.
Definitely. Is there any... I mean, that's the story.
Anything you'd like to add?
I have context, if you would like it.
He did bring a write-up, Peter. He did bring one.
Okay.
This comes courtesy of Kenneth Shepard from Kotaku. Electronic Arts, the publisher of most sports games on the market, is considering putting ads inside its video games as another source of revenue. I've cut this down, by the way. There was a bit of fluff in this article.
No.
EA was established in...
Sports
are
games
usually
are
categorized as...
Adverts.
News of this came from the company's May the 7th earnings call, in which EA CEO Andrew Wilson, also the slimiest man on the planet, was asked about dynamic ad insertion within AAA games and if he thought this was a possible source of cash flow for the company. I think it's still early on that front, and we have looked over the course of our history to be very thoughtful about advertising in the context of our play experiences. But again, as we think about the many, many billions of hours spent both playing, creating, watching, and connecting, and where much of that engagement happens to be on the bounds of a traditional game experience, our expectation is that advertising has an opportunity to be a meaningful driver of growth for us. We'll be very thoughtful as we move into that. But we have teams internally in the company right now looking at how do we do very thoughtful implementations inside of our game experiences. But more importantly, as we start to build community and harness the power of community beyond the bounds of our games, what does that mean? How do we think about advertising as a growth driver in those types of businesses? But EA, this is no longer a quote, has already tried this multiple times before, and the community it's talking about building reacted very poorly. Back in 2020, EA put ads into UFC 4 for The Boys that would pop up in the middle of fights. The backlash prompted EA to remove them. But perhaps flashing a logo during a match isn't the thoughtful implementation Wilson has in mind. And of course, advertising isn't exclusive to selling you on watching a TV show. EA has also partnered with political candidates like former US President Barack Obama, whose campaign was advertised in Burnout Paradise.
No, that's not allowed.
EA isn't the only company that's tried this and received pushback. I still remember, this is Kenneth now. I still remember how annoyed people got when Capcom put ads for the Capcom Pro Tour into Street Fighter V. Those were especially heinous because they just slapped the logo on characters and it looked silly and disruptive. Again, not very thoughtful. Right, so you start up Star Wars Jedi Cool Boy Cal, which is the next one in the trilogy.
Yeah.
And
his
he
face
starts
is
it
even
up.
less annoying this time.
His face is
And he's got
almost fully
more
obscured
haircuts.
by facial hair. He's got
Yeah.
big bangs that cover his full face.
Yeah.
He does a sick flip, stabs a guy with a lightsaber, turns to look down the camera
Cracks a can of Coke.
and says,
Cerveza Crystal.
that's a tasty Coke. And then he puts it very carefully down on a special plinth.
Logo forward.
The camera lingers for a few seconds and then he continues on his way. How does that make you feel?
Well, see, I've seen people, and I don't know how serious they are, who've like mocked up what they think it's going to look like, or maybe they don't think it, maybe they're joking, but like, I think it was actually Jedi Survivor, and it was like a cutscene, and he was like running or something from an explosion, and he went, huh, and then suddenly it like cuts to like a Burger King ad, and like the burger comes up, and it shows like the patties dropping down, it says, now available. And then it suddenly cuts back and he goes, oh, and lands.
I hate this in principle, right? But I'd be lying if there's not a part of me that
Thinks it's really funny.
wants to see how bad it could be.
Yeah. I mean, when they say they're being very thoughtful about this, I think what
EA
he means
haven't
is...
been very thoughtful about anything ever in their entire existence.
Well, when he says very thoughtful, what he means is he can't stop thinking about putting dynamic ads into his games.
It's going to be a meaningful driver of growth for them, of course.
It is.
Which
I
is
mean,
the important thing.
They've got sports games, right? So they could... I mean, I think they already do this. Like, you could put brands on the actual stadium.
Well, they have it
stuff.
like how they have it in football, where like the
I assume
banner
that's
ads.
part of the contract, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I assume that the same sponsors of like FIFA and
Yeah,
that
true,
will
it
probably
will be
still
then.
have those
Yeah.
same adverts in
So
EAFC 24
Sports club.
Sports Club football time.
Big ball boys.
there are probably some ways to do it like diegetically. Like you can there are what am I trying to say? There video games over the years, sometimes just because they actually needed something to put on a billboard, have had like the publisher's logo on there, like THQ or something. So that has happened in the past. And maybe that would be a place for, if it's like an open world, like a big city, you could put some real ads potentially. I'm not saying I want them to, but like if they really insist on inserting advertisements into their games, they really do need to be very thoughtful about it. And it has to be in the least immersion breaking way, has to be in a way that is not going to interrupt pacing of things, like genuinely running a mid-roll ad in the middle of your gameplay. I hope that never happens. Or perhaps like putting logos on people's outfits, again, preferably like people who are in sports, like costumes or like strips or whatever. So if it has to be done, they need to do it very, very carefully. But you know what? It doesn't have to be done. Maybe they shouldn't do it.
Maybe they don't need
That's a
any more
crazy
growth.
idea.
Maybe the growth maybe the growth could stop.
Yeah.
And they could just continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have I'm in two minds about this, because obviously I don't want mid-roll ads. However, I could accept adverts like that, like diegetically sensible ones, but also
Am I using that right? Or is it non-diegetic?
non-diegetic is
I think
when
you mean diuretic, don't you?
diegetic is out.
Yeah, it's
Because
when
of
you
what Doctor
can't-
Who said, diegetic's when it's not in the
Yeah,
situation,
so we're
it's
talking
non-diegetic.
where it's actually
Makes
in
sense.
the world.
Yeah. Bit of a screwjob, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, I can accept that, a billboard or on the back of my car in a racing game, there is a logo for Sprite. But I feel like we've seen a lot more recently in movies and TV shows, the product placement and how jarring it can be in those situations. And these are like movies set in real life. Like the most recent Mean Girls movie had like a lip balm advert where it suddenly cut from like a scene to, I'm putting on my lip balm now. Let's carry on with the scene. Like it's kind of, there was a bunch of situations where it's like, oh good, we're just ramming it straight down our throats now. And I do think that EA won't be very clever about how they hide their adverts. We live in a consumer society where we are constantly bombarded with adverts of some kind and being told ways to spend our money. And I would be fine with a billboard, but if it starts becoming near constant adverts when I'm looking at my screen and I'm being like subliminally messaged to because there's Pepsi adverts all over everything in a game, then I do not want that. And I especially don't want big, massive adverts in the middle of my games where I have to watch something. It already annoys me when I boot up a game and it pops up with like three things before I start about the game where it's like, new DLC. No, thank you.
Battle Pass.
No, thank you. Did you know this is happening? No, thank you.
Sequels out.
Go away. Like, Gearbox used to do that a lot with
Gearbox is so bad for
with
it.
like Borderlands and
They've got the movie popping up now, haven't they? When you start their games, like, hey, we've got a movie coming, by the way. It's like, I don't
like you'd be playing Borderlands 3 and it would be telling you about the DLC for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and you're like, hey, I'm not playing that game right now.
EA have a history of it as well in Battlefront, I think, used to.
Yeah, and I do think that like that always annoys me anyway. And if we're gonna start putting adverts for other products in, it's just gonna be worse. I would have to see how they do this before I give my judgment. But I do think that EA, I don't trust them to be tasteful about it.
No. Lingering shots of lip balm in cutscenes is not what I want to see. Like there was one in Godzilla X Kong where there was just a static shot on a Mercedes that was just sitting there for about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Like the final shot that you see at the end of a car advert where it's just there. They did that and then someone got into it.
Yeah.
Do you remember James Bond flipping loved Sony Vaio laptops for a while?
Yeah.
Couldn't get enough of that Sony Vaio laptop.
Yeah. It's so funny watching like CSI and then they're suddenly like all using like Microsoft tablets and it's like, let me just put this out logo first. And it's like, get a grip.
Guys, it's crashed again. It's crashed again.
Yeah.
I firmly do not believe there is a way they could go about this, regardless of how thoughtful they plan on being, where it will not break immersion. Because all the ways you've described, yes, it could be as obvious as here's a mid-roll. You got to wait a minute. We're going to show you this advert. It could be something like, oh, well, we'll only show it on loading screens. Well, actually, I know for a fact that if you got someone to sign up for a loading screen, you will agree a minimum amount of time for that loading screen to be. So even if the game's already loaded, I'm going to have to sit around for longer to watch this advert. Because I do not believe you'll be being honest about that. A game like Fallout, they could have burnt up, posters on the wall for like old brands, but it's like Burger King ads. So it's just a Burger King logo, but it's all like frayed and old and stuff like that. Regardless of how well they integrate adverts into a given game world, I'm still going to look at it and go, that's a real brand. That's a real brand. And that's immediately taking me out of it.
You feel that way when product placement, as we were describing then, is done better than the examples we gave. Like sometimes it is done a bit more like, oh yeah, that's...
They have to use our laptop, so they've just got our laptop.
Yeah, but then you still know, just by virtue of the logo being in there, you're like, well, that's an ad. That's an ad, yeah.
I think, what was I going to say? I was going to say something. What did you just say?
About how no matter how they include it, it will always be.
Oh, yeah, so I was thinking like things like GTA, where they have like the off-brand version of things. Sprunk. It still makes you think of the real-world version of this thing. Like, Sprunk is obviously Sprite. So you think about how these two things are the same. And they don't have to actually be giving you an ad and you're still being fed information about things. Like, when it's a McDonald's or a KFC
Burger
like
shot
joke. Yeah.
So much would be lost for I don't imagine GTA will ever need to do this or even ever do this, but if GTA and games of that ilk did start replacing that stuff, because the whole point is that it's parody anyway.
Yeah.
And if you started replacing it with real things, not only would that break the immersion, but something would genuinely be lost from the creative, artistic aspect of the game.
You can't then make fun of these brands.
You can't make fun of these brands at all. Like they'll be treated very reverently. You probably won't be able to go inside them. You certainly won't be able to shoot them or anything. And then you'll also have like games that do have a lot of lore. Like we did a main menu that, as we said earlier on, that's coming out in a couple of weeks' time from. I won't say what it is, but it's from a Fallout game.
Yeah.
And that thing we made from the Fallout game, like, had its own, like, it's an item of food, and it had its own lore about like where it came from and who made it, and
a rivalry.
Like a rivalry between places that did this food item. And it's like, so maybe GTA doesn't. I mean, if you go to GTA Wiki, maybe there's not a huge documented history of Burger Shot, but you're robbing your world of the opportunity for it to have something like that.
Yeah.
It's also not always been that bad, and it's been done before, because I used to actually really quite like in Crazy Taxi that there were Pizza Huts.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool. So I think there is an opportunity potentially for certain games to get away with it. For example, Sega are rebooting or doing a new Crazy Taxi at the moment. If that doesn't have brand name restaurants in it, that will be fine. But also, that's what a lot of people remember about that game. But I think maybe the fact that it's EA and the fact that the type of games they make do not lend themselves to any way to thoughtfully insert adverts means that this is going to be mishandled and negatively impact the experience.
Yeah.
I have like a vague memory of a story that I either did in a list or I read about a game that was made to include a bunch of billboards for an advert, and then subsequently it was a driving game. And then they made all of the billboards destructible and made it an achievement to destroy every billboard that had this advert on it. And
so
then
you would see it as you drive through it.
But it was like they were made to include these adverts and they were annoyed about it. So they made them like, please destroy all of the adverts in our game. And
Sounds a bit burnout.
I think they got I think they got told off, and then they replaced the billboard content with something else.
That's a shame.
But yeah.
The alternative is that we get a $40 priced game with adverts and a $60 game or a $70 game without adverts.
That would piss me off.
That would piss everyone off. That would be a mistake, I think, akin to including online codes that they did in the mid 2000s, which was just so anti-consumer. Yeah, you could, but we give you the option of paying for the full price one. It's like, no, but you're splitting the market. Some people are getting a worse experience. They might not come back after you pee them off with their, your advert version.
Whatever happened to, making games like Pepsi Man and Sneak King?
There's a Toyota game as well that was one of the worst reviewed games of all time.
Yeah, it was. And a Citroen as well. I think it's a Citroen game. Where, in fact, it was remember the ad where it would transform and do a dance? Right. It was that. And you were that car and you would drive round, but then if you got a power up, you would suddenly turn into the Transformer and he'd be skating around the track. Cool. But it was still really bad. But, I would much prefer that things like that were made, like the KFC game that we played. I think it's tricky, though, because it can probably turn, very cringy very quickly if they're trying to be, kind of wacky viral video game. Hey, the new McDonald's...
Grimace's birthday.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. They would have to be careful how they did it, otherwise it could just be really cringy. But that is how they should be advertising in video games if that's what they really want to do.
Yeah, just take a lump sum from McDonald's and just make a 6-month game in one of your engines. Put a small team on it and shove it out there. I don't know. Just seems stupid. It's stupid. We'll see what happens. If they're going to do it, I hope, as I said, they make it as bad as possible so that they never do it again. Yeah. And we get to see what the third Star Wars Jedi game looks like with cow drinking Coke.
I would really love them to I'd love them to be like, this is what it's going to be like. And it's just so obtuse and horrible. I want to see what they think they can get away with and then see how
a lot about it. We have to be very thoughtful.
Yeah.
Here's what we've come up with.
Cerveza Cristal.
It's going to be dreadful.
Yeah.
Anyway, let us know what you thought of everything we've discussed today in the comments down below. There's a few places you can find us on the internet. Peter's going to start us off.
YouTube.com and Twitch.tv/Team TripleJump videos on YouTube and live streams on Twitch. And if you've got Amazon Prime, you are paying for a big bundle of things, including a Twitch sub. So redeem that against our channel and you get all the normal benefits of being subscribed at no extra cost.
Yeah.
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, on all of which we are at Team TripleJump, and patreon.com/Team TripleJump if you'd like to support us.
TripleJ.mup, that's triplejU.mp, is our website. You can find everything on there. I don't know where I was going with that sentence. Everything that we do is available through that website. And why not leave us a 5-star review on your platform of choice? It helps something to do with algorithms, and we'd really appreciate it. Can you tell us about the sponsor again, please, Peter?
Yeah. Hey, you need to get more yolk in you and perhaps a bit more white too you, because you are eggs deficient.
Yeah.
More what? Do you think that the bit...
More egg white.
I didn't like that.
I was going to say, do you think that the bit that's not yolk is just called the white?
The white. It is.
It is called, there's the yolk and the white.
Egg white.
Egg
Yeah.
white.
I've never heard it referred to as the white.
No, I haven't
before.
ever heard
No, neither have I.
the
You
white.
need more white
Egg
in
white.
you.
More yolk and more white. Yeah. Separate the whites.
Gross.
And froth them up.
Gross.
Don't like it. We're going to go now. Thanks for watching / listening. We'll see you soon.
Bye.